Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Evolve podcast. We have Tucker with us here today.
Hello, everybody.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So you recently moved here to Vermont. Tell me about that and your journey coming here.
Well, golly, it was a long journey. For me, like, I never thought that I'd ever move to Burlington, but just kind of like through a chain of events, I just kind of ended up here. It started kind of like when I was just starting to figure out that I was interested in design, and it was kind of costly. I was in the middle of my junior year studying economics, and I was an art minor, and my art teacher is kind of the one who suggested, hey, there's a design college, Savannah College of Art and Design down the road, and I think you should give it a shot. And that's when I really dove into design, and I ended up meeting Joe Lord at SCAD, and we became acquaintances and reconnected in Brooklyn, and he had presented this opportunity kind of in passing on how he was, thinking about moving to Brooklyn and starting this whole thing. And at the time I was like, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to pass. Burlington, excuse me, Burlington. I was in Brooklyn. So, when I came to visit, it was like for a weekend and it was really cold. And I was like, nope. Not happening.
This weather's not for me.
No, not at all. So anyways, I was in Brooklyn for 3 years and I ended up getting burnout really badly and moved to Northern California just to kind of focus on my spiritual and mental health. Mm-hmm. And, I made sure that I was kind of taking on light freelance projects to kind of keep my head in the game.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I didn't want to keep my mind engaged and make sure that, I was still learning. And, if I were to get back into the world of design, in my head, I was moving back to New York, kind of spitting myself back out there. But something in me was like, Joe had presented it again when I was in Northern California, and something in me was like, yeah, I think, it's almost like I was like following my peace. Mm-hmm. And so Joe graciously met me in Jackson, Wyoming, where I drove from Northern California, and then joined me on that journey to drive all the way to Burlington across the country. And lo and behold, I'm here.
How was that road trip across the United States? I've never done it, so I'm always like, how was it for you?
We had to we probably broke it up into 3 days.
Yeah, it's always
because we had to get back at a certain point. And there were some ups and downs. We were driving 12 hours a day split between the both of us, but we made some trips. We saw Mount Rushmore. That whole place.
That's so cool.
That whole place was very interesting. They had everything. We were laughing at it the whole way. So, and then we went to the Badlands, which were really cool. Made a couple Joe's a photographer, so we made a couple photo ops, But it was fun, we stayed at good hotels and then we stayed at bad hotels, but we ended up getting here.
You got to get a variety in there,
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
And, my car made it, and then...
That's good. Always good.
Couple days later, it completely stalled out.
Love that.
So it's kind of like, welcome to Burlington. Your car's, not working, and you don't have an apartment yet.
So you mentioned that you came here to Burlington, started, continued working with Joe. How was that first week here doing the work that you do? And what is the work that you do here at Rev?
Yeah, so the first week was tough because all I wanted to do was jump right on it, be productive, be here the full 8 to 9 hours a day. Mm-hmm. But, the more I tried, it was I needed to take time to get grounded and
to adjust
situated.
To get acclimated, for sure.
Yeah, because the first 2 weeks were just, I mean, they were really bad. Like, I couldn't think straight because, like, I didn't have an apartment. So it took me a long time to get started. And so I came over here to be Joe's creative director, which, of course, for me, like, I have 4 years of experience of being a designer. Creative director is just something I'm kind of like growing into. It's not, it's something that, I have to, go through. It's not something that I feel like I've
mastered.
I've mastered yet, because creative director is very, it's a very big title. And for me, I've kind of like, I've had a lot of projects where I've, been able to start and finish without any sort of, be my own art director, creative director, and just be client facing. So I've had that, but not so much like a team that I'm like directing. But, I've been in that atmosphere, so I've seen it from the other side. So growing into that will be a process, but I'm embracing it, know.
And I think you're doing well. And I mean, there's always that period, like, of transition, especially when moving. Moving is one of those really big life changes. So you're doing great, and
Burlington's growing on me.
Yeah, I feel like Burlington's easy to acclimate to a little bit. It's very welcoming. It's very very open. So I think I hope that you feel like you're in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, fall hit, and then I fell.
Yeah, as does everyone.
I was like, wow,
right. So
like Willy Wonka land out there.
It is.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to what you were talking about with your work here at Rev, what is your style, and how would you say it is shown through the work that you do here with Rev and with your clients?
So I like to, my whole entire thing or mantra is to create something original. And I think that's kind of like what I've, kind of like what designers thrive for, because it's kind of hard to do when, there's so much out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like striving to make something original that no one's seen before. I always try to look for like new styles of designs, how I can like broaden. And I'm like still learning, like still trying to expand my, design horizon, so to speak. So I'm not sure if it's much of a style, but more of like a mindset to push myself. And it's like, for me, it's trying to, design something better than my last project. So always constantly being my own, competing against myself, so to speak.
Being your own critic, but in the best way too.
Yeah, in the best way. And sometimes
in the negative way.
In the negative way.
Yeah,
so it's good
absolutely.
to have, eyes on things. And I like to bounce between projects, because otherwise I'll get,
I do the same thing.
Yeah, it's helpful for me to multitask, because I can step away from the project and then come with kind of a new
perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes like stepping away from it, and then all of a sudden you have that aha moment when you're like in the shower, you have your shower, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to try that out.
I know what I need.
Yeah.
So, I do that all the time with people. Like when I'm working on a design or working, especially like in Procreate, I'll send it to a friend of mine and who is also in school with me doing design work, and I'll just ask for her opinion. I'm like, what looks good? What needs changing? I'm like, I want that honest feedback.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
Yeah.
I think that's been really helpful, and she'll do the same for me, and I'm giving her my feedback.
Yeah.
And we have two very different perspectives, and I think that helps really shape and make what we're doing more, well-rounded and better. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's always the best thing. If you have somebody that knows how to give constructive feedback,
yes,
it's
utilize it.
It's great, but like I'm sure Joe knows, like being at SCAD, the college that we went to, there was both good critique and bad critique.
Yes.
you have to know how to give it in a constructive way to where that person is more motivated to change this and that and less like discouraged with. You have to be careful with your words.
Yeah, you do.
To build that trust with somebody who can give you equally the same amount of feedback, you know.
Giving critique too is a tricky it's a tricky balancing game because you don't, especially with the relationship maybe that you have with the person, you don't want to, say absolutely everything negative about it, but also having that balance between here's what you could improve on, here's what's good.
Yeah.
How do we blend that in to create something that is either happy for you, for the client, for whoever you're doing
exactly.
it for.
Like trying to expand a thought process and trying to get that person just kind of like broaden their ideas. Because I think one of the biggest loopholes for designers is falling in love with a design without, other people's feedbacks.
Yeah.
I kind of look at as dating. When you come up with a bunch of different designs, you're just kind of dating each one of them, seeing which one works out. And then you get your mom's approval but that's a horrible analogy. That's an analogy.
No, I get what you're going.
But you know what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I got you.
As a designer, it's crucial to seek other people's feedback. Otherwise, it's hard for you to grow. And it's there are growing pains being a designer, and you can't be afraid to ask for help, because the moment you stop asking for help and stop asking for feedback is the moment that you stop growing. And so that's why it's important to do that. And with Evolve, which you're heavily involved with, you can.
Yeah, and with the Evolve network, we have different circles with design and film and photography where people can still post their work, still get that feedback, even though we're not doing Evolve Awards again right now. We will again for the future, but just still having that critique and that feedback.
Yeah, and you know what? When I was an economics major, I had no idea what graphic design was.
Very different. Yeah.
I transferred and declared graphic design without really knowing what it was. I just kind of dove into it. So Evolve Network is really good because you can ask all sorts of questions because there's so many different niches of design and illustration. I mean, it's just such a wide range of possibilities that I had no idea we're even there. So if you're an artist, but you're just not really sure where your niches are, it's good to know what those niches even are just so you can, explore the possibilities. And for me, I started out with being a fine artist, and I started out incorporating handwritten type in my art pieces. And I think that's when my teacher was like, why are you doing this and you're an economics major? What's going on? Do you really want to see yourself in a suit and tie every day? And I was like, no. So I guess that's when that was born. Suit and tie isn't
for you. This is
so it would have been nice to have that that resource so I could kind of reach out and see and get advice on how I can dive into these kind of things. And
well, hey, you got on that track sooner rather than later, I'd say, in life. So that's good. So how do you stay on top of the latest design trends? What platforms or resources or people that are you utilizing?
So I mainly, I think Instagram is probably the main resource I use just because I'm on it a lot, but I make a point to follow some of the top designers I know, and then the AIGA, which is the kind of the National Institute for Graphic Design, and they always have kind of the top trends on there, and of course, there are different Instagrams for all sorts of things. Things like typography, color scheme, and just kind of staying on top of that and paying attention to what's out there, what's getting attention, keeping your mind open to inspiration and just having like an eye on design. And I think the other resource I like to use is Behance, where it's just kind of like it's a platform where all designers post their projects, and it's where like the more attention a project gets, the more it's highlighted on the website. So you're able to see like kind of the best projects. And usually it shows kind of like the whole process. So just like staying on top of the best and how you can, try and do better, how you can make it better. Neat. So
I haven't heard of that resource, so I'll have to look at that too.
So Behance, AIGA, and of course just Instagram handles. And I'm sure a lot of you follow design Instagram handles without really paying attention to it, but yeah.
And I found too, like, even just, and this might just be what's on my TikTok, but I've stumbled across just a lot of accounts just doing like Procreate designs or like Illustrator, and like learning what their styles are and watching people's like screen recordings of them, designing things or using different tools on software, whether it's like Adobe or Procreate, where there's been multiple times I've been watching and I'm like, I didn't even know that was a thing on that software. So it's really cool just to really learn from other people and, experiment.
Yeah. And I mean, if you see something that you're like, you see something that's great, like don't get discouraged. Like you can do that too. It just takes time and patience, really. And so like going on there, like always keep in mind, like this is something that you can also do. Mm-hmm. It just, takes a lot of time and patience, and asking questions, like asking, using Evolve and, some of these platforms and how-tos. I mean, YouTube's just an instant resource of how to learn to do something.
Tutorials everywhere.
Tutorials everywhere, right.
Yeah. So what have been some of your favorite projects that you've worked on?
I think the projects I like the most are the ones where I have the most creative freedom. For me, that was working at an agency that was kind of top of the real estate world and as far as advertising goes in Manhattan. And so they were taking on these commercial and residential high-rises across New York City, Brooklyn, and New Jersey, and kind of doing the whole creative across the board kind of face for these buildings. And so as a graphic designer, working on these, was a dream, because instead of working at these big name companies like Puma, ACLU, and Capital One, where their brand identity is already set in stone.
Yeah, very much so.
As far as thinking out of the box and being creative, that's kind of, it's kind of out of the window. So, I think one of my favorite projects was this one in which I was able to kind of have more creative freedom, and with these commercial and residential real estate, with hospitality branding in general, there are all sorts of deliverables like building signage, business cards, letterheads, website, and even like for one project, trolley design. Wow. There's all sorts of different applications that come with hospitality branding that I loved. And to be able to create something from the ground up, it's like you're making your mark on these big buildings that might outlive you. And to me, that gave me kind of like a sense of, leaving a legacy. It's like, and it's exhilarating to have these buildings branded with your designs, your signage, and to see it in the city, and to have, in your head, you're thinking, wow, like millions and millions of people are looking at these. And even like, I remember with one of my projects, I did a subway blast. It was like a subway takeover
That's cool.
for 3 straight months. And it was just like, when I say takeover, it was like complete takeover. This was in Jersey City. And I don't know, it was just really cool.
Yeah, that's so rewarding.
I know, it was really rewarding. And that's kind of what I like about, that's how I really fell in love with design, is creating something from the ground up and being able to like show it to the world. And with real estate in New York, I mean, the exposure was just...
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that was... I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and that's so cool that you got that opportunity to do that, especially before coming here. Like you have something on a bigger scale, or in a bigger city at least. I think that's amazing that you had that opportunity.
And that was definitely my favorite job in New York. Yeah,
understandable.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what social media, what networks can we find you on?
Well, I have a website. That's tuckervisualdesign.com. It would be tuckeroelsen.com, but my last name...
No one can spell your last name.
is hard to spell, and there's a password on it, The Riverwalk, all undercase. And then I have an Instagram, Tucker with a _T.
Nice.
Working on changing that. But Tucker with a T is the Instagram, and you can find me at Rev Studio on the daily in Burlington, Vermont.
Thank you for tuning in and listening. This was a great conversation. You can check out more like this at evolve-network. Would love to have you and give you feedback, give you critique on your work. Happy to do that. And check us out as well. We are introducing a new exclusive segment on our Instagram titled Exposed. Creatives share their most embarrassing moments. So jump onto our Instagram to watch this next part. We are so excited for the cringe. Let's go. Okay.
Howdy. I'm single.
Oh my God, no.
Okay, is this filming? Okay.
Stop looking at me like that, Tucker. So where can we reach you?
Okay, serious in 3, 2, 1.
No, stop.